Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive in today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I'm guessing many of you are a little nervous right now. And I understand it. Donald Trump is going into the lion's den in front of one of the worst media organizations, two of the worst media lapdogs ever. And he'll be going up against a man who literally spent a week out of the office of the presidency, not undertaking his duties, where they're basically getting him to memorize one-liners and, I would argue, trying to get him to overwhelm Donald Trump with lies about the economy, the border, and so forth and so on. How do I know this, Mr. Producer? Because this is how Biden has always debated. This is his fourth run for the presidency. 4 times. He will say and do anything. The Hunter Biden laptop. He knew it was Hunter Biden's. They planted the letter, and yet he pointed to it. The media rallied around him. He was caught in 1988 in the Democrat primary, lying about his education, scholarships, grade point average, plagiarizing speeches from Robert Kennedy, Neil Kinnock. But then we had a media that held him to account. And he had to withdraw. But I watched his withdrawal speech the other day. Arrogant as hell. This is a man who takes responsibility for nothing. The horrors that he's created with an open border, the economic impoverishment of millions and millions of Americans, rampant crime in the streets. He takes responsibility for nothing. Oh, yes, convicted felon. This is what they've always wanted. So Biden's judge and Soros's prosecutor delivered. There are ways to deal with that, and I'm sure President Trump will. But the fact of the matter is, when the debate is said and done, the media will unleash the most aggressive, the most ubiquitous propaganda operation in American history. They will tell you that Donald Trump lied about this, that, and the other. To the extent Joe Biden lies, if they say anything, it'll be a slight misstatement. But they will one. If Joe Biden loses track, they'll say he won on substance. If Joe Biden does nothing but stands up, they'll say, see, he demonstrated he has the ability to be president. And there is no question in my mind that Joe Biden is drugged up for this, whether it's Adderall or Botox or B12 or whatever it is. Amphetamines? No question. Why wouldn't he? It's not illegal. They're dual-use drugs. Why wouldn't he? So this is all play. The entire environment of this debate was dictated by Joe Biden and CNN. CNN, remarkably, has not allowed any other news organization to watch the debate in the hall, to report on it. Not one. One reporter can literally hang out in the hallway, but that's it. And so the other news organizations are very upset about this. But that won't change their bottom line. Just remember what we're dealing with here. A media that pushed the Russia hoax collusion issue, participated in it. A media that refused to go down to the border to see what was actually taking place. And when they did, they lie about it. A media that regurgitates Biden's claims about the economy for the most part. And a media that spreads every lie to every disgruntled former employee, every reprobate, as if it's fact. Just look who's on CNN. Look at the Republicans who are on CNN. Look at Jake Tapper, his comments. Dana Bash, her comments. Jake Tapper calling Trump Hitler. Jake Tapper, Dana Bash, and the rest. The conga line of reprobates at CNN, the rest of them. They never played Donald Trump's victory speech when he won the Republican primary. They are constantly cutting off his speeches. Constantly. And the reason they give is, I'm not going to allow these lies to be spread on our network. Your network is a lie. Same thing with ABC, CBS, NBC. Same thing with MSNBC. Same thing with all of them. These networks have pushed the propaganda in this country right to the edge. They've told you that Donald Trump wants to execute his political opponents. That he's worse than Hitler. He's Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini combined. The more you hate Trump, the more you're promoted in these media corporations. Just the truth. These are the people who will be watching for any opportunity, any squint, any sweat bead, any misstatement to seize and to claim that Joe Biden has won. The New York Times has 29 fact checkers, but they aren't fact checkers. The New York Times hired hitmen and women. And how can the New York Times, as I alluded to last night, be fact-checking anybody? When the New York Times chief correspondent in Moscow was a Stalin mouthpiece for 12 years and covered up the slaughter of the Ukrainians in 1932. How can the New York Times be fact-checking anybody? When there have been multiple books written, including mine, pointing out that the New York Times intentionally covered up the Holocaust. And that the New York Times chief correspondent in Berlin was a Hitler acolyte. Can you imagine? And this same New York Times, in the 1950s, helped install the vicious, mass-murdering communist Fidel Castro in Cuba. And the same New York Times that uses data from Hamas. Hamas, blood libels to try and destroy the state of Israel. We're going to rely on the New York Times fact checkers. We're going to rely on CNN to do a good job? We're going to rely on any of these woke, Democrat, radical left corporations for actual news, for objective analysis? No. Even the Washington Post today had to point something out. A new measure of America's deep distrust of the media. A new measure. It is a grim time to be a member of the news media, they write, like they're victims. Many people, though presumably few here at the Washington Post, see this as karma, if not good news. They view the media as having failed at its basic task of informing the public. That sentiment is particularly acute in the realm of political coverage. Donald Trump has spent nearly a decade excoriating the press for its alleged failings that tend to correspond to coverage of his false statements. See, they do it right to the end. Now, that's not why you're hated. You're hated because you're the Tusk. You're the Pravda of America. You're the Al Jazeera of America. But while Trump's rhetoric is often among the most virulent, this isn't solely downstream from Trump. In recent years, there's been particularly acute criticism from the left as well. Oh, okay, well then it's very important. Swing state polling from the Post and the Schar School of Policy and Government at George Mason University found that only 3 in 10 residents of 6 of the most important states in this year's presidential election trust that the media will fairly and accurately report political news. 7 in 10 indicated that they had not much trust in that occurring, or that they had no trust at all. As you might expect, this lack of trust is more pronounced on the political right. And why would you expect that? Because it's accurate. Only 13% of white evangelical Protestants in those states indicated that they had trusted the media to fairly report on politics. White? What does it matter if they're white? I suspect many blacks feel the same way about the American media. The Post-Schar poll determined that only a handful of groups, Democrats, those who listen to NPR, National Public Radio, those who view President Biden's re-election bid with satisfaction, had more trust than distrust in the media. Well, of course. The media play to the Democrats. The media play to the Marxist left. They play to the Marxists, the Islamists, the Democrat Party, and Biden. And so, of course, those people are far more supportive of the media. Whereas the rest of us, eyes wide open, ears wide open, we know what we're dealing with here. State-run media. When the Democrats are in power, that's what we're dealing with. And that's what we'll be dealing with tonight. And that's what we'll be dealing with after the debate. But never fear, America. Mark is here. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the war on our justice system, the vicious assault on President Trump, has sent our nation into uncharted waters. And trust me when I say things are going to get worse before they get better. I truly believe that. The political turmoil and uncertainty that lie ahead could have severe consequences for our economy and financial markets. But in times of crisis, there's always opportunity. And right now, I see that opportunity in diversification with gold and silver. As these tensions rise and the dollar's future becomes increasingly uncertain, gold has the potential to go even higher. That's why I trust Advantage Gold. They're experts at helping Americans take steps to help safeguard their wealth with precious metals. Call them right now. 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit, plus a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. The future may be unpredictable, but your financial security doesn't have to be. So call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. There's no risk. There's no pressure. That's 800-900-8000. Get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers today. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Our buddies at Newsbusters put together a montage of CNN pushing lies. Cut one, go.
CNN is, of course, committed, as always, to putting facts first.
Facts first, Jim.
Facts first, exactly.
Trump might have committed treason.
Significant evidence of collusion.
There is tons of proof of potential collusion.
It's our job as citizens as well as journalists to point out that facts matter.
The U.S. president possibly working for the Russians.
Reasonable to ask if he could be working on behalf of Russian interests and not the U.S.'s?
Well, it's a reasonable question.
We hope tonight has been an educational experience that used facts to cut through fear and myth.
It is highly unlikely that this virus came from the lab.
It's likely this came from animals.
A hunter kills an animal, the animal's blood is being carried back.
CNN is committed to providing you accurate information about the coronavirus pandemic.
The pangolin may have been the origin.
Snakes, that's what they're saying.
Eating snakes. Wow.
Facts matter.
Facts matter.
All we can do is tell the truth.
The president repeatedly said that Christopher Steele's dossier has been discredited. To the contrary, parts of the dossier have actually been corroborated.
There was information in the Steele dossier that had already been corroborated by the intelligence community.
U.S. intel officials have taken the dossier quite seriously.
We have to stand for the truth. We're not just here to report the news. We're here also to defend the truth. We're hearing about so-called cheap fakes.
Manipulated videos to make the president look bad.
Truth matters. Truth matters. You've got to have a commitment to truth. These videos, I mean, they're blatant lies.
The press is a means of sorting out the truth. Our job is the best obtainable version of the truth.
We're doing our job to speak truth to power.
The real story about the U.S. economy. Why Americans are wrong to feel so down about it.
We have to hope that the truth matters.
It's been a mostly peaceful protest, but then they chose to move in. Truth still matters. You say the president is using mind control.
I'm not a political person. I'm a person who lives in reality. I'm a journalist. The biggest terror threat in this country is white men. There is no white guy ban. So what do we do about that?
That's why we're here, to bring you the facts, to give you the information, and to put the big questions about all of this to the smart people.
He says, if I'm elected president, I will push for a constitutional amendment to impose term limits on all members of Congress. Correct me, there already are term limits, so what does he mean?
There are already term limits? What is she talking about? Our buddy David Brody, a real journalist, he posts this: watch how Jake Tapper and Dana Bash frame their questions tonight towards Trump. The big concern here is, will they do Biden's bidding by, quote-unquote, asking questions through a prism of anti-Trump narratives, bulletin points, and code words? Biden's going to need all the help he can get, and he's 100% right. That is exactly what they're going to do. That is exactly what they're going to do. So, as you can see, Donald Trump is going to have his hands full. But that's because Biden needs the media. He needs CNN. He needs the phony New York Times, Holocaust-denying, Stalin-supporting, Castro installing New York Times to do fact checks. Who's going to fact check the New York Times? Can't wait for historians. I will, of course. But that is the way this is going to roll. But I have faith in we the people. That people will look at this and they will say, wait a minute. Biden says this, Biden says that. But life under Biden has been horrible. Prices, inflation, interest, the cost of rent, the cost of homes, the cost of food, the cost of anything. Illegal aliens swarming the country while he's claiming that it's the Republicans' fault. But they weren't swarming the country by an extra 12 to 20 million when Trump was president. And that Reagan statement, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago? I'm sure Biden has a quip for it. I mean, he had 16 knuckleheads surrounding him. But ask yourself that question. Are you? Answer is no. I'll be right back. My fellow Americans, the phony conviction of Donald Trump has sent a clear message. Our country is in deep trouble. Our rule of law is under attack, and the integrity of our elections may well be in jeopardy. In times of political chaos like this, it's crucial to protect your wealth and secure your financial future. That's where my good friends at Advantage Gold come in. Please call them now. 800-900-8000. Get their free 2024 gold and silver kit to help protect your money against times like these with physical, precious metals. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. No one can predict the future, but you can prepare for it. Call Advantage Gold today. 800-900-8000. Get your free gold and silver kit right now. Plus, Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers today. 800-900-8000. Give it a try. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professionals.
Nobody says it better than Mark Levin.
I'll go with what Mark Levin said, because nobody could say it better.
Call in now at 877-381-3811.
Now, we know, folks, we're having a problem with the mothership, our website. I'm told they're working feverishly on trying to fix it, right, Mr. Producer? And so there is that. Certain aspects of it work, but certain aspects of it do not work. Casey Hunt is a host on the Constipated News Network. And just to show you what we're getting here, what a poisonous, cancerous operation this is. She has on Cedric Richmond. Cedric Richmond was a congressman. Now he works for Biden in his White House as a senior advisor. And so you understand the extent to which the media are in the tank. This one little exchange will demonstrate to you. Cut 3, go.
Should President Biden shake Donald Trump's hand? Does he deserve that?
Well, that's up to President Biden. And I'm sure there's no love lost there. I wouldn't shake his hand.
What kind of a question is that, Rich? What kind of a question is that, America? It's a lousy, rotten, no-good question because Casey Hunt is a lousy, rotten, no-good, phony journalist. These people get paid because of their ideology, not because they're serious reporters. Casey Hunt hasn't broken a story in her life. She hasn't done straight news in her life. Mika Brzezinski, on her husband's show today, Sakon Vansetti. Cut 4, go.
First of all, he doesn't study policy or history. It's worse. He doesn't care. He doesn't give a damn about public service. He thinks public service is for losers.
You see, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump's life is being turned inside out and upside down. Not Mika Brzezinski's. She and Joe are making a fortune doing what they do. They don't tell you the truth. They don't reveal the extent to which they advise Biden and his staff, the extent to which they are in constant communication. There was a report that talked about that. But Donald Trump doesn't care about public service. It's for losers. Donald Trump has paid a higher price just to run for president than anybody I know of. Anybody. Go ahead.
People who are buried at Arlington National Cemetery are losers who didn't
See, this has been a lie that General Kelly put out there because General Kelly was given the boot, and he's another former employee who tries to get even. It's been demonstrated there was never another witness to that. But they'll say it. Biden will say it, just like Charlottesville. They'll say it. And notice Mika Brzezinski doesn't mention the 13 beautiful heroes that lost their lives in Afghanistan as a result of what Biden did. Not a word. Not a word. Why is that, Mika? It's appalling. But he never said they're losers. Ever. And this is what they do because they try to convince people who really are not following or don't understand or at least open to their propaganda that Donald Trump hates the military. Donald Trump loves the military. He loves our veterans. Joe Biden has shown no such support for our military and our police. None. But this is how the propaganda works. This is how they twist it. So they'll seize a comment from a disgruntled former chief of staff. Shameless, General Kelly, shameless. And despite the fact that others who were there said that never happened, it doesn't matter. These are liars. These are propagandists. As I said, no better than the so-called media in Russia. State-run media. A media that promotes the Democrat Party and their candidates come hell or high water. Go ahead.
Understand what was in it for them. That you have to look at his core values. His core values are the problem. I mean, it's
Why
not
don't
even...
you admit, Mika, that there was a time when you liked Donald Trump, you and Joe? There was a time when you socialized with Donald Trump. There was a time when you supported Donald Trump. The viciousness and the vile of this duo on a horrendous, phony waste of a carbon footprint, MSLSD, is really unmatched. And her father, Zbigniew Brzezinski, boy, did he have nothing but contempt for the state of Israel, if you get my drift, Mr. Producer. He even had the look, may I say. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Go ahead.
Can't answer a question. And then to Charlie's point, hostile interviewers. I don't think that Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are planning to be hostile. I think they want a fair debate.
Well, they'll be tough to both sides.
Who was that, Joe? They'll be tough on both sides, sure. That's why Biden personally selected CNN. And I'm sure they personally asked for Dana and Jake. Two frauds, phonies, and fools. Go ahead.
Tough to both sides. And I think the hostility, from what we're seeing already from the Trump campaign, is coming from Trump toward them.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, we have the audio. We have the video. We know what they've said. We know who they are. We know that Biden wanted this media outlet. Biden wanted these anchors because they're two of the top anchors on CNN. He was going to get them. And she doesn't understand why the animosity towards Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. Well, she listened to this show, she might educate herself. Because I've been focusing on these two clowns for years. And not just with Trump. They're the worst. They're the worst. That's why they'll be there. But don't worry. Don't worry. Over at CNN, we have Cassie Hunt, right? Asking Cedric Richmond, should President Biden shake Donald Trump's hand? Does he deserve that? How do you think she's going to score the debate? She's already scored it without one word. Without one word passing anybody's lips. She's already scored it. And the lies from CNN, Newsbusters put together that I played for you, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Tip of the iceberg. Next thing you know, MSNBC will bring out Psaki. Sure. ABC will bring out Stephanopoulos. Sure. All objective reporters, don't you know? Jake Tapper, Democrat. Dana Bash, Democrat. Mika Brzezinski, Democrat. But she's whipped Joe Scarborough into place, I can tell you that. Yes. And you and I, of course, we're brainwashed. We're part of a cult. We're detestable. Yeah, the rest of us, that's who we are. That's who they say we are. So the propaganda operation, which is the American media, the Pravda, the Tusk, the Al Jazeera American media, will be in full propaganda mode, with big lies and little lies, with repetition all around. And the New York Times has 29 people, not as fact checkers, as fact destroyers. But as I say, you've experienced the Biden presidency. People have died for no reason under the Biden presidency. People have been sold into slavery on the border for no reason under the Biden presidency. No presidency is perfect. These things happen, but not to this extent. That border is open and it's purposeful. The lies about bipartisan legislation and I signed an executive order. We're sick of it. The consequences are obvious. But they'll turn around. They'll say, we've deported more people than Trump. You watch how they lie. And their lying media will back them up. Trump lost more jobs than any president in history. The pandemic, and those jobs were lost by blue state governors shutting down their economies. How many times did Trump say, open your economies, open your economies, open your economies? Biden will say he cut the debt and the deficit, when in fact he's added trillions of dollars to it. This is how Biden litigates. He violates the Constitution repeatedly, and then he says, catch me if you can. Biden is a thug. He's always been a thug. He's a pathological liar. He's been a pathological liar since he was a kid. He's a plagiarist. He's been a plagiarist since he was a kid. And he needs 16 people for 7 days straight. And a shot in the ass, no doubt about it, in my view, to put them together. You just need 90 minutes, Joe, 90. Throw rhetorical and political grenades here and there, Joe. Do it with a calm voice. Get under Trump's skin. This is what they're telling him. Overwhelm him with facts, a.k.a. lies. Call him names. You know, you're a convicted felon. What you did in Charlottesville. You called our military losers. You can do that in 12 seconds, and he has to respond to it all. And here we are, the American people, suffering the consequences of this moronic, nasty, evil idiot. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The war against Donald Trump, which is ongoing, has turned our legal and political system into a nightmare. With the 2024 elections on the horizon, we could be facing a period of unprecedented instability and uncertainty. But you can protect and grow your wealth by investing in gold and silver. Precious metals have always served as a safe haven during times of political and economic turmoil. And with the expert guidance of my good friends at Advantage Gold, you can navigate this insane climate with confidence. Call Advantage Gold right now. 800-900-8000. They'll send you a free 2024 gold and silver kit that tells you how to help keep your money safe when things are bad. Plus, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you a special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 if you qualify. Call Advantage Gold, 800-900-8000. Get your special Mark Levin discount worth up to $1,300 for qualified customers. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Welcome back, America. I want to give a hat tip to Jesse Waters. He invited me on his show at 8 o'clock tonight. But, of course, I'm doing radio. And this is my first love, and I'll keep doing radio. But he's a good guy. He's always inviting us on there. We appreciate it. Then we have Michael Tyler, Biden campaign spokesman. This guy's been all over TV spewing the poison. He was on Fox today. Cut 5, go.
This is going to come down to tens of thousands of votes in a handful of states. And so that's why tonight is an opportunity for President Biden to communicate directly to those voters.
You know, it's interesting with this line, an opportunity for Biden to communicate directly to voters. Every time Biden's had that opportunity up till now, he wouldn't take it. What do you, Mr. Badis? He doesn't go into neighborhoods, rarely does, unless he wants an ice cream. But he hides from the people. 40% of the time he's on vacation. He hides from the White House press corps. Now, I admit the White House press corps is whorish. Nonetheless, he hides from questions. He hides. But they've pumped him up. They've given him one-liners. They've given him arguments, basically lies to spew. Go ahead.
And tonight he's going to present a clear choice between himself, who's fighting for the American people.
How is he fighting for the American people? He's going to talk about his legislation. Wow. That's a bureaucrat in Washington. Legislation means nothing. What about action? I'll give you an example. I'll give you two examples. We've talked about this. $42.5 billion legislation he got passed to hook up every single home in America to the internet. They haven't hooked up a single one. $7 billion for electric vehicle charging stations around the country. There are 7. $1 billion apiece. So he can talk about legislation all he wants. It's not legislation that matters. What matters is action, what you actually do. Unless, of course, you're a political bureaucrat who spent literally your entire life in Washington, D.C. You judge success by legislation. And by the way, he hasn't even passed much of that. Hasn't even passed much of that. Cut 6, go.
I think if you want to talk about Donald Trump, he's obviously not going to present the Donald Trump who's been out at his MAGA rallies on the stump. But the problem for Trump is that
Biden's not going to present himself as the stumbling, bumbling Professor Irwin Corey, who can't complete a sentence and distinguish between his wife and his sister, because he'll be all pumped up. So Biden is very unlikely to be presented as that. Same with the State of the Union. You never know. You never know. Go ahead.
Things he has been saying at those MAGA rallies. He's going to have to answer for the role that he played in overturning Roe v. Wade. He's out there on the stump
role
saying
he played in overturning Roe v. Wade, which gives us the Dobbs decision, which leaves the matter to the states, which has resulted in more abortions after Dobbs than before Dobbs. You got that? I keep saying this over and over and over again. I hope people are listening. Just how many abortions are enough abortions for the Democrats? They're really hot on abortions. But when it comes to actually protecting little 12-year-old girls and 13-year-old girls and 15-year-old girls from illegal aliens, not so much. Not so much. Go ahead.
Extreme state-level abortion bans that he's responsible for are working out brilliantly.
Okay, he's not responsible for state-level abortion bans. The states are responsible for what they do. Let me tell you what's going on here, and I've written about it. I wrote about it in The Democrat Party Hates America, certainly a book worth checking into again. The most reliable vote in the Democrat Party is not the black vote, it's not the Hispanic vote, it's not suburban women per se. It is childless women. Childless women who are obsessed with the abortion issue. That doesn't mean many of you are who are childless. I'm saying that's the group that turns out and votes Democrat no matter what. That's what they want to do. They want to churn it out. And so that's why they keep hitting abortion, abortion, abortion. That is the base of their base. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. Well, MSNBC brings out Georgie Conway, a.k.a. George Conman, with Stephanie Rule. This is, you know what I'm saying? That's just, it's a joke. James Clyburn. They bring him out on CNN. There's really no difference between these two networks. But James Clyburn wants you to know something. You're all confused about Joe Biden. Has nothing to do with the man's faculties. He's brilliant. He's sharp. But he's a stutterer. Cut 9, go.
It has been noted that many believe that Biden somehow is too old to be the president. Why do you think that's resonating for him and not Trump?
Well, I think that
first of all, Lara Coates, it's not that he's too old. It's that he's got dementia. Don't you know the difference? Go ahead.
Sort of buying the sound bites these days. And the fact of the matter is, I don't think that people focus enough on things that are ever present. For instance, Joe Biden, as a child, stuttered badly, worked very hard to overcome.
Folks, I don't know if he stuttered badly. He did have a stuttering issue. He grew out of it. He ran for the Senate 6 times without stuttering for 36 years. He ran as vice president without stuttering for 8 years. This isn't a stuttering issue. The pack of lies that we're being fed every day to cover up the true nature of this man is really outrageous. It's grotesque. Now, I want to make another point. In fact, I want to make 2 more points here related to this. We have people on our side in TV and radio go on and on and on about demented Joe, and Joe can't do this, and Joe can't do that, and so forth and so on. I got it. But now that's being used against President Trump. It's being used against us. Why? Because the bar is so low. As people now say, all he has to do is not come on the stage and be who he really is. He's pumped up, 16 advisors. Why do you think they spent a week with this guy? They had to put him back together again. And so when you have hosts, our friends, on TV and radio going on and on and on and on, now here and there, I get it, but on and on and on, you just handed them a weapon. So now, if he performs like a monkey, like a clown on the stage, and the performance is acceptable, they declare him the winner. My second point, it's like the polls. When are we going to learn? When are people in the media going to learn? Conservatives. Obviously, you can mention the polls and talk about the polls, but don't live and die by the polls. And yet they keep doing it, Mr. Producer. Have you noticed it? It's all the time. When you do that, you reduce by some level the motivation that people have to go out and become activists and to work and so forth, because you're being told all the time, we're leading in these states, we're leading here. You can mention the polls, mention the surveys, mention it, but don't start spiking the ball in June, for God's sakes. It's ridiculous. Well, it's a very nice little ad put out by our buddy Steve Deace over at Blaze. It's actually more compelling to watch it. I put it on my social sites, but it's also good to hear it. Cut 12, go.
It's quite simple, folks. We just can't afford 4 more years of this.
Honors my heart. He's the most honorable, decent person I know.
Hunter Biden has been found guilty on all counts in his federal trial in Wilmington, Delaware.
He's the most honorable, decent person I know.
At least Biden used to be able to talk. Now he can't even do that.
After I signed the PAC Act, Secretary puts his dimes, all it is there to make sure it may be precise.
Now let's just stop a minute. That's not stuttering. Okay? That's gibberish. By somebody whose syntaxes, I'm serious, are not firing properly. Okay? That's not stuttering. Go ahead.
Tremendous amount of things you can do. 21st century results. The Minister of Yacoba, daughter of Ireland. You can tell that's a Freudian slip. I'm thinking of home. The daughter of Iceland.
It's quite simple, folks. We just can't afford 4 more years of this.
I'm not Donald Trump, and he didn't approve this message, but he should.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I mean, honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, this guy should be removed under the 25th Amendment. The idea that we're going through this farce because the Democrat Party wants to nominate him for president of the United States is really unconscionable. That Joe Biden loves the trappings of power, that the Biden family has never had it so good. Donald Trump isn't running because he needs the trappings of power. He had more trappings than anybody can imagine with Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower and his place in New Jersey. He didn't need any of this. But the Bidens have always wanted this. This is the fourth time Joe Biden is running for president. And let's remember again, in 1988, when he was running in the Democrat primary, he had to drop out because his lies were so overwhelming, so peculiar, that the media chased him off. In fact, Mr. Producer, I'm going to take an early break now. Let's see if we can find that. I don't mean to put you on the spot. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need. 36 years ago, when Biden didn't have dementia, he was still a serial psychopathic liar. I just want to remind you, because it's so important, you're getting all this propaganda now from the Democrat media, the Democrat Party, the operatives, and that campaign. Go ahead, Mr. Producer.
I was sort of raised in the Puerto Rican community at home. I was in the foothills of the Himalayas with Xi Jinping, traveling with them. I've written extensively when I was a law professor.
I went to law school on a full academic scholarship, the only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship.
I was appointed to the Academy in 1965. I didn't come to the Academy because I wanted to be a football star, and you had a guy named Staubach and Bellino here. So I went to Delaware. I got started out of an HBCU, Delaware State. Now, I don't want to hear anything negative about Delaware State here, okay? They're my folks.
Went back to law school and, in fact, ended up in the top half of my class. I won the International Moot Court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like.
I am a hard coal miner, anthracite coal, Scranton, Pennsylvania. My dad was he was a salesperson. He wasn't a coal miner. My great-grandpa was. My first job offer, where my wife, deceased wife, and I wanted to move to Idaho because we think, not a joke, it's such a beautiful, beautiful state. And I interviewed for a job with Boise Cascade. I got a commercial license because my dad used to run an automobile agency.
I used to drive a tractor trailer.
Awesome.
And so I know a little bit about driving big trucks.
It means that I've worked in the East Side. I deliberately went and worked for 3 years to make sure I was the only white guy that worked in the East Side because, I wanted to understand. I was involved in the civil rights movement, but
what did you want to understand?
What I want to understand, I didn't realize, for example, as the only lifeguard in the project. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, "Hey, Esther, you. Off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off." He said, "I'll be waiting for you." He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke. I used to be a lifeguard
for years. And when I ran for the United States Senate, they said, well, why do you want a 29-year-old guy who's only been a lifeguard? Well, the truth was I was a practicing lawyer. I've been a public defender, and I had my own small law firm. The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. You know how much it costs to make that insulin drug for diabetes? Cost. It was invented by a man who did not patent it because he wanted it available for everyone. I spoke to him, okay?
You better have helicopters ready to take those 3,000 civilians inside the green zone where I've been 7 times and shot at.
Think of Iraq because that's where my son died. Uncle Frank fought in the Battle of the Bulge, and he won the Purple Heart. And he never received it. So he got him the Purple Heart. He had won it in the Battle of the Bulge. And I remember he came over to the house, and I came out, and he said, present it to him. Okay, we had the family there. I watched what happened when the kids from Parkland marched up to, and I met with them, and then they went off to up on the Hill when I was vice president. They went off the Hill to go into those neighborhoods. All those congressmen were like, no, I'm not here. I'm not here. Don't tell them I'm around. God's truth, I traveled over 1,250,000 miles on that track. And one of the conductors I know for years walked up and grabbed, said, Joey, baby, grabbed my cheek.
All alive.
And not a joke.
This day, 30 years ago, Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and entered into discussions about apartheid. I had the great honor of meeting him. I had the great honor of being arrested with our UN ambassador on the streets of Soweto trying to get to see him on Robbins Island.
I swear to God, true story. I swear to God, true story. True story. They think I'm kidding, man.
There's a ton more, and not a thing he said was true. Nothing. And he lies with exquisite detail. I only needed 123 credits, and I had 165. Exquisite detail. A complete fraud, a complete liar. Look how the media standards have changed. In 1988, Joe Biden would never have gotten away with running for president under his current condition. Period. But not today. Today they rally around him. I'm talking about the media. They lie to us about videos. We see them with our own 2 eyes. They lie about his economic record, his border record. They help promote his talking points. It's really quite remarkable. And that same media will be in charge of this debate. That same media. It's really quite appalling. Nancy Pelosi was on MSNBC. We have another letter. 16 Nobel laureates in economics. That's a drop in the bucket. There are thousands of economists, many of them accomplished, some of them are Nobel laureates. But they got 16, like they got 51 intelligence and national security types with their lying letter before. And listen to this. Here she goes. Cut 13, go.
So then you look at something else. People are concerned about inflation. 16 Nobel laureates came out this week and said that if what's-his-name were elected president with his fiscal policies, inflation would just increase enormously in our country. And you have Joe Biden on the other side of that screen leading the world in reducing inflation in our country.
You believe these pathological liars? And she's right at the top of the list. There was no inflation when Joe Biden took in. It was 1.4%. 1.4%. Economists view that as no inflation. It shot up to 9% under Joe Biden. And when you look, as Charles Payne points out, at 2 economies, that is, the extraordinarily wealthy billionaires, multimillionaires, where so much of this printed money is flowing. It's creating inflation. The interest rates are high. And that is why the value of your dollar is going down. You can't purchase what you used to purchase. Your income cannot keep up with inflation. Basics, food, energy, through the roof. The supply chain has been undermined, usurped. It's called stagflation, as I say over and over again. High interest rates, high inflation, the value of the dollar going down. which means people have to charge more for their products and their services. Unfortunately, you can't afford more. You can only afford less. That's stagflation. The economy, just like Joe tonight, took a real shot with a couple $2 trillion that it didn't need coming out of COVID. A real shot, a real massive stimulus like we've never seen in American history. And the consequences are everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. And he's made it clear if he's elected again, he wants the Congress to pass a $7 trillion budget. Do you know that this year, and I've explained this before, this year, the deficit for 1 year is going to be close to $2 trillion. Do you know that under Joe Biden, interest on the debt cost you and me more than the entire defense budget? No society can survive this. And on top of this, the border's wide open. There's not another country on the face of the earth that has a wide open border. Not one. Not one. And they're going to try and convince you with their media in hand that Joe Biden deserves a standing ovation, that Trump created all the problems. All the problems. They're also going to talk, I assume, about race. Bring up Charlottesville. I'm sure the president, that is my president, Trump, knows the response to that. Probably bring up Nick Fuentes. You had lunch with Nick Fuentes. And the answer to that, of course, is simple. Maybe I had lunch with Nick Fuentes. Probably a bad idea. But you were buddies with the biggest racist segregationists in American history. When you entered into the Senate, you joined with them. In fact, you led legislation to kill busing integration. So little black kids could go to school with little white kids. You're proud of it. You might remember Kamala Harris ripped you for it. And in 1994, as I've said, he pushed and passed a racist crime bill that targeted black communities. Why? Because it had higher penalties for crack than cocaine. And in the inner cities, crack was more prevalent because it was cheaper than cocaine in the Manhattan, L.A., Chicago skyscrapers used by very, very wealthy people. But you get the point. And he was condemned by the lawyer for the NAACP for his position on race. And he embraced George Wallace and Herman Talmadge and James Eastland and Stennis and Robert Byrd, all of them. Many don't even know who I'm talking about. These were the big-time segregationists who filibustered the 1964 Civil Rights Act and the 1965 Voting Rights Act. That's Joe Biden. I'll be right back. Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need.
Mark Levin, America's passionately cerebral voice. Talk with that voice now. 877-381-3811.
Over at Blaze Media, Courtney Wheel, flashback CNN operatives help certain Democrats in debates. Thursday, tonight's debate moderator has compared Trump with Hitler and called his presidency a national nightmare. That's Tapper, Democrat. At 9 p.m. tonight, CNN will host this first inter-party presidential debate, a debate between Biden and Trump, a president and a former president. Now, their debates in 2020 were contentious, and it promises to be no different. She writes, or he writes, the network hosting the debate, CNN, will likely play a significant role as well. And if past presidential debates hosted by CNN are any indication, the network will likely run interference for Biden. Here are 3 notable moments in which CNN operatives apparently assisted certain Democrat candidates. Candy Crowley saves Obama from himself. On October 16, 2012, then-President Obama joined current Republican Utah Senator Romney for their second of 3 debates before the 2012 presidential election. CNN hosted the debate, and then anchor Candy Crowley served as moderator. Where's Candy today? Nobody was never better named than Candy Crowley, don't you think, Mr. Producer? A month prior to the debate, on the 11th anniversary of the September 11 attacks of 2001, Islamic terrorists stormed an American diplomatic compound and nearby annex in Benghazi, Libya, and murdered 4 Americans, Ambassador Christopher Stevens, U.S. Foreign Service Officer Sean Smith, 2 CIA contractors, Tyrone Woods and Glenn Dougherty. These were great people. The days and weeks following, Obama, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, then UN Ambassador Susan Rice, and others blamed the attack on a YouTube video created by an American that criticized Muslims. Quote, based on the best information we have today, Rice said at the time on Face the Nation, the attack began spontaneously in Benghazi as a reaction to what had transpired some hours early in Cairo, where there was a violent protest outside our embassy sparked by this hateful video. Susan Rice is as sleazy as they get, and she's still hanging around the White House like a hemorrhotic. But the video had nothing to do with what turned out to have been another coordinated terrorist attack on America. On September 11th, during the 2012 presidential debate, Crowley asked Obama about these events, and Obama insisted that within 24 hours, he called them an act of terror. Romney then jumped in and asked Obama whether he had misunderstood him correctly. That is, understood him correctly. You said in the Rose Garden that day, after the attack, it was an act of terror. It was not a spontaneous demonstration. Is that what you're saying now? I want to make sure we get that for the record, Romney continued, because it took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror. Crowley then stepped out of her role as moderator and openly sided with Obama, claiming that Obama did, in fact, call the Benghazi attacks an act of terror. Obama even then cheered on his teammate. Can you say that a little louder, Candy? Well, a few weeks later, Obama routed Romney and coasted to re-election, 332 electoral votes to Romney's 206. Obama was lying, and Candy Crowley lied for him. Donna Brazile feeds Hillary Clinton debate questions. This is all CNN. Donna Brazile was bounced back and forth between Democrat campaign work and newsroom punditry for decades, was a powerful figure in the 2016 political landscape. By that point, she had been making regular appearances on CNN as a Democrat strategist for years. She also spent years in DNC leadership roles, so when DNC Chair Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz abruptly resigned her DNC post in July 2016, following the explosive news from Julian Assange WikiLeaks that the DNC had rigged the Democrat primary for Hillary against Bernie Sanders, Brazile immediately stepped in as interim DNC chair, even as she continued her contributor position at CNN. But the WikiLeaks scandal became much more personal for Brazile in October 2016, when leaked emails revealed that earlier that year, Brazile herself had shared with the Clinton campaign at least 2 questions Hillary Clinton would likely receive during an upcoming primary debate co-hosted by CNN. One question related to fallout from the water crisis in Flint, Michigan, another related to the death penalty. Here's one that worries me about HRC death penalty. And it goes on. That year, Brazile also apparently promised in an email to Clinton's surrogate that she would send a few more questions, quote unquote, along as well. Brazil vehemently denied feeding the Clinton campaign any CNN questions, even waxing indignant, claiming that she was a victim of Christian persecution during a particularly heated exchange with then Fox News host Megyn Kelly, who pressed Brazil about the accusations. Despite her caterwauling, Brazil resigned from CNN just a few days later. Donald Trump ultimately prevailed in 2016, and by March 2017, Brazil publicly admitted that she had, in fact, given Clinton's team the debate questions. In October, a subsequent release of emails revealed that among the many things I did in my role as Democrat operative and DNC vice chair prior to assuming the interim DNC chair position was to share potential town hall topics with the Clinton campaign, she wrote in an article published by Time. My job was to make all Democratic candidates look good, and I worked closely with both campaigns to make that happen. But sending these emails was a mistake I will forever regret. Remember, she denied it. Chris Wallace blocks Trump from asking Biden about son Hunter. All CNN. We're looking at one election after another. Chris Wallace has spent the past 2 years of his storied journalistic career floundering about at CNN. He joined the network in early 2022, was supposed to be the star host of CNN Plus, the network's streaming service that was launched and canceled within just a month. But in the fall of 2020, Wallace was still with Fox, the network that had been his home for more than 15 years. In late September that year, Wallace moderated a debate between then-President Trump, current President Biden. Trump was, he writes, bombastic, repeatedly attempting to pin Biden on the defensive about his son Hunter's involvement with Burisma in Ukraine. Biden repeatedly stammered that his son had done nothing wrong and all the accusations against him had been discredited, assertions that have since been proven false. That is, Biden's. The federal government even introduced Hunter Biden's infamous laptop from hell into evidence against him in his recent trial, noting that it had been authenticated as previously belonging to Hunter Biden. And of course, Joe knew it was his and Hunter knew it was his. Yet back in 2020, Joe Biden insisted his son had been unfairly maligned, and Chris Wallace seemed to help shield Biden from Trump's relentless attacks. Quote, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million. What did he do to deserve it? Trump asked Biden. It's not true. None of that is true, Biden stammered. As Trump continued hammering Biden about the accusations about Hunter, Chris Wallace repeatedly ordered Trump to back off. Let him answer. Wallace interjected, though the crosstalk continued. After another minute or so, Wallace told Biden, Mr. Vice President, you get the final word. Biden then immediately replied, well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Biden then pivoted, throwing out unspecified accusations about Trump's family members and attempting to talk about the American people. But Trump tried to steer the conversation back toward Hunter and Ukraine. At that point, Wallace ended the discussion. When Trump was asked rhetorically whether he could continue his line of questioning, Wallace raised his voice and replied, the answer to that question is no. Wallace then demanded that the debate move on to another segment, though he haphazardly requested that both participants stop interrupting one another. Wallace took particular aim at Trump. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that. When Trump asked about Biden's behavior, Wallace retorted, well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting. Now, nearly 4 years later, Wallace views that debate as having sealed the election for Biden. Quote, I actually think Donald Trump lost the presidency in that debate by his performance. That's what he said on an appearance on CNN. The Source with Caitlin Collins. He dropped about 4 or 5 points. He never regained it. Wallace also asserted that Trump interrupted Joe Biden or me 145 times in 90 minutes. A statement that seems to situate himself with Biden in opposition to Trump. Wallace will not be hosting the debate on Thursday tonight. Instead, the network is tapped for the role Wallace's colleague, Jake Tapper, who has repeatedly compared Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler and characterized his presidency as a nightmare. These media types, they don't change their stripes, America. They don't change their stripes. And I think the point that Brody mentioned, the way they answer the question with the various types of emphasis or the suppositions in the question, they'll be multifold, and you'll see how that works. Because the goal here isn't the truth. The goal here is to beat Trump. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Did you know one of the largest U.S. flags in the state of Georgia stands proudly in Pure Talk's parking lot? To honor that flag, Pure Talk is supporting America's Warrior Partnership in their mission to prevent veteran suicide. For our servicemen and women, the transition to civilian life can be very difficult, especially now. Access to housing, employment, and even their earned VA benefits can be very difficult. That's where America Warriors Partnership steps in by providing real support where and when our vets need it most. And you can help this noble cause when you switch to Pure Talk's 5G service and support this great charity. Through Flag Day, they'll match every dollar donated up to $50,000. Choose a wireless company that shares your values and puts you on America's most dependable 5G network for just $20 a month. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/LEVIN to make the switch. That's puretalk.com/Levin for superior cell phone service. That's half the price of Verizon, AT&T, or T-Mobile, and to help Pure Talk with vets in need. Well, America, inflation number has been revised higher. Higher on the eve of this debate. Our friends at Breitbart, Biden got some bad news on the eve of the first presidential election. The government's estimate of inflation in the first quarter of the year was revised higher. The Bureau of Economic Analysis said that personal consumption expenditure price index rose at an annual pace of 3.4% in the first 3 months of the year, far faster than the 1.8% recorded at the end of last year and up from 3.3% estimated in the prior report issued in May. Now, these inflation numbers are cumulative throughout a presidency. They're cumulative because the price of a product doesn't then go down. Price of a product is up 9%, up 6%, then on top of that, 3.4%. That's why you're seeing these prices. The personal consumption expenditure price index is used by the Fed as the yardstick for its 2% inflation target. He inherited 1.4%. The upward revision indicates that the surge of inflation as 2024 began was even worse than previously thought. The core index on prices, which exclude food and energy prices, exclude them, rose by 3.7% according to the new estimate. The previous estimate said 3.6%. In the fourth quarter, core prices were up at 2% annual rate. So that's 2% in the month. They were released, these numbers, as part of the government's third estimate of economic growth in the first quarter. So inflation is even worse than you thought. Even worse than you knew. Of course, he's not going to talk about Bidenomics, is he? And much of the debt created during the Trump administration related to the pandemic spending, which was a one-time surge. So here's what Joe Biden's going to do, and this is what he has done. He will lie about the inflation rate during Trump's presidency. He will lie about it during his presidency. He'll tell you he's knocked it way down. He will lie about deficits. He will say that Donald Trump had the highest deficit. Actually, the Democrats even wanted him to spend more, if you recall, on the pandemic. There was a one-time expenditure. I opposed it. We talked about it on here multiple times, but nonetheless, it was one time. And there have been many, many reports since then explaining that Joe Biden's increase in spending, hence the increase in annual deficits and the increase in overall debt, is sky high under Biden, even when you take into consideration the pandemic. So $2 trillion in deficit in 2024, that's the estimate now. There's no pandemic spending. It's wildly out of control. And what do we get for it? Nothing. What have you gotten for it? Inflation. Well, that's Bidenomics. Let's see. Joe Biden will have the opening statement, as I understand. They asked. He won the coin toss, apparently, or one of his people did, and they wanted the opening. A lot of people said, that's weird, not to have the closing. No, it's not. He wants to create the narrative with his opening. And it took 16 knuckleheads to tell him what to do. That is, to answer the question, but then veer off into other issues, overload the answer. Not just to try and get under Trump's skin, that line, but to make it almost impossible for Trump to respond. That's the plan. In my humble opinion, we'll see. But that's the plan in about an hour. And he will lie, and then he will lie about Trump. He'll lie about the statistics during the Trump presidency. He'll lie about Trump on race. The biggest racist, really, who's run for president in modern times, that would be Biden, bringing up race. Next thing you know, he'll bring up anti-Semitism. When he's the biggest anti-Semite in the Oval Office, Donald Trump was the greatest friend Israel ever had. 1 hour left. The clock is ticking. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. The debate has not begun if you're listening live. It will begin in about 54 minutes. Hot air. Karen Townsend inside Biden's debate prep, 16 advisors and practicing stand-up. President Biden is hunkered down and he's been at Camp David. Took a week off from the presidency. I've never seen anything like this before. It isn't unusual for a president to take some time off as the time grows near for a debate. Presidents get rusty during their time in office, and Biden is not used to being challenged on policy decisions or opinions. He stays cocooned in the White House or at one of his mansions in Delaware, away from the press corps. He rarely gives interviews. It's reported that there are 16 aides with Biden working as advisors and preparing for the debate. 16. That seems like a lot. Camp David is turning into a television production set. Listen to this report. At Camp David, a movie theater and an airplane hangar have been outfitted with lights and production equipment to create a mock debate stage. At least 16 current and former aides summoned from Washington and Wilmington whiz back and forth on golf carts to join President Biden in strategy sessions. Don't you find that preposterous, America? As I've been saying, the guy's president of the United States. Doesn't he know what the hell's going on? That's okay, she writes. Former President Trump knows a thing or two about television and being on stage. Ron Klain is managing the debate preparedness. He's a reprobate. He helped Obama after Obama's terrible performance during the first debate against Romney in 2012. The goal is to position Biden as the president running for re-election and as a fighter who can counterpunch on the fly. It's a heavy lift, even for a seasoned Washington insider like Klain. Biden can no longer speak on the fly or off the cuff in public. He relies on a teleprompter and note cards. Yeah, but he's got that shot in the ass. He won't be allowed to have note cards during the debate. He's going to have to wing it. That puts him in unfamiliar territory. Trump, in contrast, wings it all the time. He can stand and talk to reporters for as long as they have questions. Speaking of standing, part of Biden's debate prep is practicing standing for 90 minutes. Again, what are we dealing with here? As he will have to do tonight. We just watched Biden at the G7 in Italy and in France to commemorate D-Day. He didn't show a lot of physical stamina during those trips. Biden surrogates insist that Biden is sharp and doing well as he prepares to face off against Trump. They said the rust factor is real, said David Axelrod, a former top strategist to Mr. Obama. Neither of these guys is accustomed to having someone a few feet away grilling them with no deference. According to people familiar with the planning at Camp David, who were not authorized to speak publicly about it, of course they were. They leaked it. The workdays vary in length and are not rigidly structured. Mr. Biden and his most trusted advisors work on what they think would be best to refine or practice in the moment. trying to give you, during the course of these 3 hours, a real feel for what CNN is up to, what these hosts are up to, what Biden is up to, and all of this that's going on. Because Biden must stand there, not wet himself, and complete his sentences. Because if he does that, they will declare him the winner. Team Biden hopes he will remain focused on arguing about policies and also striking out about Trump's character. Biden is preparing to provide a contrast between his policies and those of Trump. That's bold. Biden's policies have been disasters, so he'll lie. Trump's providing an environment for all voter demographics to do well. Life in Trump's America was a roaring success pre-pandemic compared to the last 3.5 years in Biden's America. Biden's campaign thinks it'll be a chance for him to go on the offensive on issues like immigration and abortion. Biden has thrown fuel on the fire in recent days, though, with his blanket amnesty plan for more than 500,000 illegal aliens while the southern border remains wide open. Criminal aliens are killing and raping innocent children and women. Does Biden have it in him to admit that he's made horrible mistakes since day one when he stopped the programs and policies that secured our border during Trump's administration? No. Biden and his people are tone deaf. No, they're ideologues. What's happening is what they want to happen. If they wanted to stop it, they'd stop it. Immigration and border security is a top election issue. Joe Biden and DHS Secretary Mayorkas have blood on their hands. You notice that phrase is being used a lot more, Mr. Producer? That's my phrase. Bob Bauer, husband of Mal fan Anita Dunn, is Biden's attorney. Bauer played the role of Trump in 2020 debate prep and is doing so again at Camp David. In his book, The Unraveling, Mr. Bauer said he studied hours of tapes of Mr. Trump as a businessman, candidate, and president before the 2020 debates. He wrote that he did not try to portray a Saturday Night Live version of Mr. Trump with makeup and costumes. Instead, he wrote, he used as much of the language as he did on topics that would come up in a debate. Now, the usual suspects are with Biden at Camp David. They have been all week. Mr. Biden's Camp David prep team includes Mr. Klain and Mike Donilon, who is the architect of the campaign's theme that democracy is at stake if Mr. Trump wins. Steve Ricchetti, counselor to the president who manages relationships on Capitol Hill, is also scheduled to be there, as is Jake Sullivan, Mr. Biden's national security advisor. Isn't that interesting? Because Jake is a political hack. Jeffrey Zients, Mr. Biden's chief of staff, is expected to be there, as are aides focused on communication strategy, including Anita Dunn and Ben LaBolt, the White House communications director. Several Biden campaign aides, including Jen O'Malley Dillon, Cedric Richmond, Julie Chavez Rodriguez, Quentin Fulks, Michael Tyler, and Rob Flaherty are also on the list of attendees. Some are returning to the fold just long enough to help Mr. Biden prepare. Brian Deese, who left the administration as Director of National Economic Council in 2023. Yes. Can never have enough. 16. Good luck with that crew. They all played roles in taking our country over a cliff during the Biden administration. We'll see what sage advice they offer to Biden, if he remembers any of it. One CNN panelist on Sunday said Biden needs to smile more. That's the ticket. The real question is which Biden will show up. Will it be the angry old man so amped up on something, or the other that he yells for 90 minutes as he did during the State of the Union address? Or will it be the dazed and confused Biden who mumbles and bumbles through an event? Will it be old Yeller or Sleepy Joe? We'll find out Thursday night. Folks, don't underestimate this. Don't underestimate this. He's jacked up, and he's going to go on offense. The media is going to help him, both at the debate and after the debate. I told you, none of this changes my mind, but that's not the problem. The problem is some of the goofballs out there. Oh, did you see this? Did you see that? That's part of the problem. Those people. And so, of course, they'll hit abortion. They'll hit the usual stuff because we all know that the problem with America is there's not enough abortions. There's just not enough. Now, friends at the Daily Mail, Trump teases a new nickname for Biden in furious rant, saying he can't hit a golf ball 10 yards, listing all of his lies the day before the debate. By Jeff Earl, deputy U.S. political editor for the Daily Mail. Donald Trump is waiting for tonight, the debate, to insult his rival, even taking a dig at his golf game. So writes this reporter, so-called. Amid speculation, Biden would seek out ways to get under Trump's skin to lure him into a self-defeating bluster, they write. Trump pushed out a stream of online invective on Wednesday, accusing Biden of planning stories. Well, he did. Cheating in college. Well, he did. Lying generally. What he does. Trump, an avid golfer who retreated to Mar-a-Lago after skipping Biden's inauguration in 2020, also rolled out a new nickname for Biden, Lying Machine. He is. It's a psycho. That comes after repeatedly calling him crooked, an insult he adopted from his 2016 campaign with Hillary Clinton. Crooked Joe's handlers are loudly and profusely complaining that there will be no fact-checkers during the debate on Thursday, he wrote. Actually, that is just disinformation. They could not be happier, because there's nobody that's as loose with the truth as Crooked Joe. Trump posted on Truth Social, which is 100% correct. CNN's political director has said the goal is to let the candidates address each other, with the network providing fact checks after the fact. That could be a green light for candidates to twist the facts to win a point without facing immediate consequences. Okay. From the 51 fake intelligence agents to Russia to the fake suckers and losers story he created our beloved military, to cheating in college and saying he was first in law school class when he was actually last, to claiming he marched for civil rights, drove trucks, and has a 6.2 handicap. He can't hit the golf ball 10 yards, but that's a minor detail. This is Trump. And so many more falsehoods. The man is a walking lying machine and a fact checker's dream, wrote Trump. So you know what the New York Times says, Mr. Producer? That's inaccurate. He didn't graduate last in his class. Ladies and gentlemen, he graduated near the bottom of his class. So I think we're really picking at absolute nonsense with the New York Slimes, of course. Now, the fake intelligence agents refers to the senior intelligence officials who joined to say Hunter Biden's laptop had the hallmarks of Russian operation. We know that. And Trump says Biden created a story about Trump calling people who serve in the military suckers and losers, but it has actually been attributed to former Trump Chief of Staff John Kelly. Yes, but others who were there said it never happened. But that doesn't stop Biden. That doesn't stop him. Trump's concern about the lack of fact checkers comes after Washington Post reporters determined he made 30,000 false or misleading statements during his tenure. You know, we went through some of that several years ago. And the Washington Post is filled with liars. With liars. Biden claimed in a memorable confrontation while campaigning for president in New Hampshire in 1987 to be in the top half of his law school class. Fact checkers established he finished near the bottom. Biden snapped at a reporter at the time. I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you, and soon ended his primary run. Biden's claim of driving an 18-wheeler has been debunked. Each contender seems to have concluded that golf attacks have some influence and so forth. So this is the Daily Mail, which can be really good or really bad, depending on who's writing the piece. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Well, America, the Biden campaign is bragging that in the 5 to 6 Eastern Time hour and now the 6 to 7 Eastern Time hour, they've raised more money from small donations than any time during this election cycle because they've been sending out emails. Now, if you want to contribute to Donald Trump, let's go ahead and post on our social sites, Mr. Producer, DonaldJTrump.com. You're able to. It's a free country. I can mention it. DonaldJTrump.com. DonaldJTrump.com. How about we shut the thing down where there's so many people contributing? So again, if you want to help counter the reprobates, miscreants, and malcontents, the Marxists and the Islamists, the enshrined billionaire class that makes so much money off your backs with all this redistribution of your tax dollars, you got to step up. It's DonaldJTrump.com, DonaldJTrump.com. One more time, DonaldJTrump.com. Let's see what this audience can do. This audience of great, great patriots. We cannot allow these people to outmaneuver us. I've told you before, these political campaigns are like military campaigns without the violence, of course. You've got so much resources that you have to determine how to apply it, what issues are going to make a difference, how to hit your opponent, where to hit your opponent, what states. It's much more strategic than some might think. So DonaldJTrump.com, and I have a suggestion, okay? Share that link with family members and friends and associates, colleagues, and coworkers. Share it. Let's do it right now on this Levin surge. DonaldJTrump.com. Of course, you can donate to the Biden campaign if you wish. But DonaldJTrump.com. Did I say that enough, Mr. Producer? DonaldJTrump.com. And I want to encourage as many of you as possible right now, go to that link. Pull out your wallet, your purse, and do what you can. After all, that man who's going to be standing on the stage as we look at the monitor on the left, he's up there for us. He's up there for us. He's going to take more abuse as he's taken abuse like no candidate has ever taken before. For us. He doesn't need any of this. Even this debate. Honestly, none of us could go through what he's gone through. None of us. So these are tyrannical people with a totalitarian mindset. And their mob, that's right, their mob are stepping up. Their mob, they're stepping up. And they're donating big time. That's what I just heard. That's what I just saw on Fox. So please do whatever you can. It's very, very important. Now, something a little different. There was a hearing today. The president of the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights. This is a radical left-wing group. They were at a hearing today, hat-tip post-millennial, with a woman by the name of Maya Wiley. And she's being questioned by Representative Nancy Mace. Cut 19, go.
Can you define what a woman is?
A woman is a person who says she is. And let me just tell you one story about this, because when I was a child...
No, you're not going to tell me a story. We're not doing that right now. It's not story time.
Yeah, it is story time, because when I was a child, I was
it's not. I'm going to reclaim my
boy.
time. Be quiet. I'm going to reclaim my time right now. Biological women are real women. A guy born as a man who wants to pretend to be a woman and put him and his big Jim and the twins in the locker room with underage girls, or his little Jim and twins, by the way, is disgusting. I have a daughter. She turned 14 last year. I took her to a store called Aerie for her birthday. We went shopping for an hour in downtown Charleston, South Carolina. She was taken to her dressing room by a biological male in a miniskirt and a lace bralette. It is disgusting. I have no idea if that man was over 18 or under 18. It is absolutely disgusting that we're redefining what women are and allowing men into women's private spaces. And by the way, Miss Wiley, I am a survivor of rape. I was raped at the age of 16. I am not going to put other women and girls into unsafe situations where biological men with their willy-nillys out putting women and girls at risk. It's absurd. It's disgusting.
Right on. I'll be right back.
The Mark Levin Show, live and national at 877-381-3811.
Well, while we're at it, there was Ayach, fresh from her defeat with Hamas Bowman. All 1,200 pounds of that guy. Apparently in the same hearing as Nancy Mace with Maya Wiley. And Ayach has stumbled onto the truth, ladies and gentlemen. You see, the problem is there's too many white males in Congress. That's the problem. Cut 18, go.
I think one of the things that we need to take a look at is the world that they're fighting for, a world without diversity, equity, and inclusion policies, which is to say the default, which is to say workplaces that are honestly kind of like Congress, because the population of the United States, as we mentioned, is about 59% white. Do you know what percentage of Congress is white?
No, and I
don't, but I know that we finally have 60 members of the Congressional Black Caucus, which is progress.
But even then, 75%. White Americans make up 60%, 59% of the U.S. population, 75%
What does this
of
have to do with anything? People get to vote for who they want. And if there's a dearth of minorities in Congress, you can blame the Democrat Party. The vast majority of people who are black, Hispanic, Asian, Jewish vote Democrat. It's like reparations when they go on. The country owes you nothing. The Democrat Party owes you reparations. Your party, the party that you're a member of. They're the ones that started the Civil War. They're the ones who also fought the Civil War to retain slavery. They're the ones who maintained and retained slavery for decade after decade after decade. It's the Democrat Party. Why are you blaming the whole country? In fact, the Republican Party came to be in 1856 as the Abolition Party. So what are you asking Republicans for? Too many white people. This is a hearing, you see. This is a hearing. So what do? We got to kick out certain members of Congress to accommodate AOC? Now, let me ask you something, Mr. Producer. You may not know the answer. Her district incorporates a big chunk of the Bronx. Isn't that correct? And the Bronx has a significant, the majority population of the Bronx is black, correct? So why is she in Congress? She's not black. She grew up in Westchester, by the way. She didn't grow up in the Bronx. They moved from the Bronx to Westchester and all the rest of it. But that's the case with most of these Marxists. They didn't come up dirt poor. They came out of the upper middle class or even among the wealthy. When you look to the history of this. Now, this abortion issue, I already told you, and I've written about this, that the reason the Democrats are so hot to trot about this is because the most significant voting bloc consistently and overwhelmingly for the Democrat Party is women without children. Women without children. They can rely on it. It's a significant percentage of the population, mostly young, and they need that turnout. And that's why they're pushing it. But there's a second reason why they're pushing it, because the abortion industry pours tens of millions of dollars into the Democrat Party. What am I talking about? Here on Breitbart, abortion giant Planned Parenthood will dump $40 million to boost Biden and the Democrats. How much of that money, folks, comes from us? Planned Parenthood has gotten billions of dollars in tax revenue. Abortion giant, writes Breitbart, Catherine Hamilton, Planned Parenthood announced it is spending $40 million to prop up 81-year-old Joe Biden and Democrats in key congressional races ahead of November, reported The Hill. And the organization, which was founded by an infamous racist, eugenicist, made the announcement on Monday to coincide with the second anniversary of the Supreme Court Dobbs decision. They act like the Dobbs decision was so horrendous. Just gave the states the authority, which they always had before Roe v. Wade. And I want to remind you that under Roe v. Wade, the third trimester, a.k.a. the last third of the pregnancy, Roe v. Wade held that states are, in fact, free to regulate that part of the pregnancy. The Democrat Party does not want that regulated. The Democrat Party believes in abortion on demand, infanticide, quite true, and they oppose parental notification. The vast majority of the American people do not support abortion in the last few days or even minutes and do not support the elimination of parental notification. The funding blitz comes as Biden and Democrats around the country continue to make abortion the centerpiece of their campaigns, rather than addressing other pressing issues like the flailing economy and the porous southern border. For his part, Biden has promised to restore Roe v. Wade. Now, if they restored Roe v. Wade, let me tell you how ridiculous this is. That would mean a federal law. The Supreme Court has ruled, probably with very few exceptions, that this is a state issue. So if they pass a national law, and they're not wanting to put in Roe v. Wade, they're wanting to put in their extremist position that I just described to you, because that is the bill that they put up for a vote right after the Dobbs decision. No parental notification and abortion right up to the end of a real baby. That's their position. I don't know why we run from this. This abortion issue actually is quite easy to discuss. But this Planned Parenthood gets billions and dumps millions on the Democrat Party and the Biden campaign. That's my point. Now, the group will first invest in battleground presidential states, including Wisconsin, North Carolina, PA, Georgia, Arizona, according to the report. And the abortion giant will also dump money on congressional races in Montana. They want to get Tester reelected. New Hampshire, New York, which could potentially tip balance of the House and the Senate. The program will specifically focus on voter turnout and outreach through voluntary and paid canvassing, phone banking, digital, TV, and mail advertising. But we have power of our own, America. Power of our own. And so while reports are out, could be propaganda, I don't much care. While reports are out that the 5 to 6 hour was the biggest fundraising of the Biden campaign this election cycle with small donors, only to be beaten by 6 to 7 p.m. hour Eastern time. I am telling you, America's patriots, don't allow them to outgun us. You can donate to whomever you want, obviously, but DonaldJTrump.com is another place you can go, DonaldJTrump.com. And if you're thinking about doing it, think no more. Just pull the trigger, in my humble opinion. Because the more money, the better to get out the truth, as far as I'm concerned. Well, the debate is 15 short minutes away. It's been an enormous amount of hype. We'll take a look at this tomorrow after the fact. We have a fantastic weekend of Levin TV programming that's going to address this debate, as well as Supreme Court decisions that are likely to be released tomorrow. And so I will be fully prepared to do both with the most fantastic guests you can imagine who are already locked in. So don't miss it. This weekend, I'm encouraging you to go ahead and set your DVR so it records automatically every week, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, whatever time it is where you are, Saturday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Sunday. It's not going to be a lot of gibberish, not a lot of pre-game discussion, not a lot of that stuff. We're going to dig into the debate. We're going to dig into these court decisions. And I think it'll be very, very compelling. That's Life, Liberty, and Levin on Fox, 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Don't forget DonaldJTrump.com, DonaldJTrump.com, and we'll have the best analysis available on this program tomorrow of what takes place in a few minutes. Well, I saved this for the last. New York Post. Turkish migrant arrested for allegedly raping a 15-year-old girl in his car in Albany. A migrant from Turkey was charged with raping a 15-year-old girl in Albany. And questions are swirling about why it took cops more than a month to inform the public about the horrific assault. Folks, our women and little girls are under attack. They're being hunted down by violent illegal aliens. Sakir Akan, 21, is accused of attacking the teen inside his car on Arch Street, Albany, In the early hours of May 14, after she ran away from a local group home, court records obtained by the Post show, a con who wasn't arrested until last week allegedly told the girl, who was in a passenger seat of his Toyota Prius, well, at least he had the Prius, he gets points for that, right, Mr. Producer? Oh, yeah, that he'd pummel her if she didn't get into the back, and threatened her with a metal pole, according to the filing. Once she was inside the back seat, he took the girl's clothes off and raped her. The victim, who lived in a group home close to where the attack unfolded, who was known to cops, suffered scratches on her legs from trying to resist the attack. Another little girl. Another American. It's open season on our women and children, America. Whatever happens in this debate, the dunce is going to deflect all this. He's responsible for all of this. The teen was cut loose soon after and fled to a nearby residence for help. A police report obtained by the Albany Times-Union shows the suspect was finally nabbed June 18, slapped with a first-degree rape charge, Albany cops confirmed. A con was back in court today, sporting a Pompidou-style hairdo with buzz sides, with an orange Albany County Correctional Facility jumpsuit and shackles. Through a Turkish translator, Akan agreed to waive preliminary hearings and grand jury proceedings. He was held on $25,000 cash bail, $50,000 bond or partial bond of $75,000. But his private criminal defense attorney, George LaMarche, said Akan won't be able to post bail because the feds have filed an immigration detainer against him, keeping him locked up. Oh, how horrible. Court records show he has an address listed in Troy, New York, but he's not a U.S. citizen. His lawyer confirmed that he does have family in Albany. He was arrested by U.S. Border Patrol agents on November 5 last year after crossing into San Diego illegally, a.k.a. he's an illegal alien. A con informed agent he was trying to get to Philadelphia, but failed to provide an address. Just days later, he was released on his own recognizance due to a lack of bed space, ordered to appear in a Philadelphia court on February 19, 2025. You realize we have millions of these illegal aliens who are ordered to appear in court or these administrative courts, and they just blow it off. Aiken was arraigned last Wednesday and has been held without bail. And the Albany police have taken heat for failing to notify the public of the vicious sexual assault. Vicious sexual assault. One after another after another. We have warnings going off from the director of the FBI about a soon-to-be terrorist attack. We have patriots who are leaking from Homeland Security telling us that ISIS brought 200 will-be terrorists into the country. 150 have been found, but 50 are still on the loose. 50 are still on the loose. We've got Venezuelan gangs here now, which we didn't before. MS-13 has a big presence now in the United States. These Mexican gangs, ISIS stole the tactics of these Mexican gangs, these Mexican drug cartels, which they use on people, from those cartels. They're in the United States. We're all supposed to believe if we only had this bipartisan bill that Trump told them not to vote for, that this would come to an end. It is a lie. It will be repeated tonight during the debate. The man, when you're looking at the monitor, when you're looking at the screen on the right, Biden has blood on his hands. He has the blood of these little girls on his hands. He has the blood of so many that we don't even see on the border, sold into sex slavery and pornography. Murdered. The blood of Americans from fentanyl on his hands, and he won't do a damn thing about it. Just remember when you're watching this debate, just remember the truth. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, the men and women in Ukraine, the men and women in Israel. We have your back. And you, the American citizen, don't forget, DonaldJTrump.com. Now we watch the debate, and I'll see you tomorrow. God bless.